Sorry about that. My mic was not volume wasn't all the way up, but how you doing, Red and Go Faithful? You're hanging with the Niner Nut. Um, so we're talking about last week's win against the Patriots, which I think a lot of us all expected, and where look, we got a win. That's what counts most, first and foremost in this league. A win is a win, and it doesn't matter how you get it as long as you get it. And last week's 30-13 victory was really good. There are I saw some experts that were like, whoever they consider themselves, who were like kind of talking about how they weren't so happy about it or the way they got the win. I don't really see how. I thought that, first of all, there was some dynamic plays in that game. What I'm talking about is the George Kittle catch, the emergence of Jordan Mason as he continues his reign in the NFC throughout the NFL, over 100 yards in three straight games, and as well as a guy that deserves a lot of credit. Two guys, actually, but one guy, first and foremost, is veteran defensive tackle Kevin Givens, who leads the team in sacks, who had 2.5 last week, who's on his way to having the most sacks of his career. He's been a reliable veteran for various years with the 49ers, and in the wake of losing Javon Hargrave, he's done really good stepping in. If you haven't watched the games, man, he looks rejuvenated. The funny thing about him is he looks to me like he lost some weight a little bit, speed being increased, but for whatever the case may be, man, he's getting after it. He's getting after quarterbacks and doing a damn good job of it. Another guy is Malik Collins, who I thought had back-to-back huge plays last week and has been really impressive so far this season, just stuffing the run and causing a lot of trouble for quarterbacks in the backfield. So that's two guys that have really stepped up so far. Um, but other than that, last week was a real good way to get a victory. Just get everybody on the same page. Kittle with that crazy ass catch against two or three guys. Another reason why he's the best tight end in football, because he does absolutely everything. Juwan Jennings continuing to be a extremely valuable wide receiver. And you got to see last week how much better the offense looks when Deebo Samuel's in there. I just think that he brings an element to the offense that is a lot different than when we don't have him. It's probably to do with his tenacity in which he plays and his ability to be a dual tool, if you will be. But again, I think that a lot of the focus, and how can I forget the extremely great play of Brock Purdy, man? I mean, but that's something we've all known about. We who have been watching him for 3 years now, 2.5, if you really want to get technical. We've seen exactly what he's capable of, and now a lot of people are catching up. And then, of course, there are the idiots who still don't give him the credit he deserves, but that's all good, fine, and dandy. A win is a win. That's a terrible Patriot team. I thought that they looked a lot better opening week, but I guess over time, as the weeks go by, when you don't have the big time players to um, to get things done, it's going to show. And Jacoby Brissett's a very good quarterback, a very good veteran quarterback. I know they're calling for Drake May in New England, but look, Jared Mayo, I guess he knows better, right? He wants to bring him along slowly, although sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Ramador Stevenson's a good running back. I believe he's scored today so far. Antonio Gibson is his backup. But other than that, other than Hunter Henry at tight end, their wide receivers, other than Jalen Polk as the rookie, they don't have a lot of weapons at wide receiver. And I'm surprised an organization like that comes into the season without a legit wide receiver, because give Jacoby Brissett the targets that he needs, and it may be a little different. I mean, who's the last good wide receiver you saw for New England? I mean, think about it. I don't understand that. They didn't even have a legit one last year. So, I really don't understand that. The defense for New England doesn't look all that bad. That kid Gonzalez at cornerback played really good last week. He was impressive, man. He broke up a couple passes. He was making life a little hard back there. But again, this is what was expected of them coming into the season. Brand new head coach, who served under Bill Belichick, who got Belichick's stamp of approval to be the next head coach. So you got to think that they're going to do things the right way. It's going to take time. You can't always with the Stone song, but no, it's going to take time, man. But most importantly, we got a real solidified win last week. The game was over before it started. I think that everybody was on the same page, thank God. I didn't really have a problem with any of Shanny's calls last week. I thought the defense looked a lot better. Another week under Sorensen. They look solidified, especially in that defensive front where they've had some injuries. So I think that if we keep getting the same amount of play from Malik Collins, from Elliott, from Kevin Givens, Leonard Floyd didn't have a sack, but he had a couple of pressures back there. I think that increases, we could mitigate the loss of Javon Hargrave, which is something tough to overcome. But at this point, that's all you got. And for the most part, Collins has been a solid defensive tackle his whole career. So I'm happy that these guys are really playing at a high rate. Um, that offensive side of the ball, man, you're talking about Jordan Mason. I mean, I don't hear his name enough. I mean, I know I'm starting to see blips and blurbs about him, but this guy's on pace to just do some damage, get over 1,700 yards. And that's not even considering using him more out of the backfield, which I think they definitely can because he's got that dual play ability. He has an athletic, real hardcore athletic, um, flow about him that not all players have. A lot of the times you get just a damn good athlete who can pretty much do multiple things, similar to a Deebo Samuel, be a wide receiver, be a running back, just be a very cerebral person. Or you get someone who's just really good at their position. And, sometimes the both are fine. But in this case, we got to start to talk about this kid, if he continues being the top runner in the AFC. Forget the NFC alone. What about the NFL? And again, hats off to the running game they have. Hats off to the offensive line. Hats off to the scheme that they run the ball out of. I mean, yeah, we've talked about that. That's the Shanahan way. And again, not to be repetitive, but the Shanahan way. Go back to Mike Shanahan when he was in Denver and he had, great running backs, but the system worked. If it wasn't Terrell Davis, it was Orlando Scary. If it wasn't Orlando Scary, it was Mike Anderson. So if it wasn't Mike Anderson, it was Reuben Drone. So that offense is built to do that. And what we're seeing now, what you're seeing all around the league is the running game has come back so much more than the agenda would like to talk about. Because remember, everyone's talking about how this was just a passing league. That's bullshit. Now you're seeing multiple teams run the ball a lot more. Forget about us. That's something we always did. I'm talking about Baltimore. Okay, that's not the best example because of Derrick Henry. Okay, fine. But you're also seeing that, out of I just watched the Jets and the Vikings. Terrible loss for the Jets because I'm on the East Coast. But you're seeing that out of Minnesota, too, using Aaron Jones, using Ty Chandler. You're seeing that out of the Jets, although they should have ran the ball more with Braylon Allen and Hall. All around the league, a lot of teams are running the ball so much more. The Bears, who I know recently before I came on, they scored. Rashawn Johnson, DeAndre Swift. In Cleveland, too. Without Nick Chubb, they're running the ball with P.S. Strong, Deonta Foreman. So whoever said that the run game was something that was gone doesn't know what they're talking about. Look at the Los Angeles Chargers with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I mean, great coaches, a lot of the time what I feel are guys who know how to utilize the run hardcore and just look around the league. That's what we're seeing. So, again, my hat off to Shanny and co. That offensive line, the running game is flowing big time, and I think it's only going to continue. The one game that he did not have 100 yards and Jordan Mason had 78. What's up, Cali 49ers? We could be dominant if McKivitz was replaced and get out of the way, get Isaac in the game. Oh, there I got to agree with you, man. I'd like to see more of Isaac Ariendo. I don't know what's the thing there. I don't know what the problem is there. That I can go with you on. McKivitz didn't look bad last week. I just think he's not going to give you, obviously, Trent Williams style. Although that may be expecting way too much. I think he's better as a probably just as a swing tackle at this point. They're going to have to look to upgrade that position, to be fair. And to be fair, they wasted a lot of time on McGlinchey because look what he's doing in Denver. I don't even think he's playing right now. I think he was injured last week. But McGlinchey was never as good as he was drafted to be. Shanahan doesn't like rookies. What about Buford at right tackle? Oh, man, I don't know. Buford at right tackle, that's a transition that's not always the easiest because you're talking about a real. I don't know if he has the speed at right tackle. That reaction time has got to be really quick, especially against the ends and that we're playing against. We've seen that. We've seen a lot of good talent so far on both ends of the ball for when it comes to defenses. I mean, we had trouble with Pat Jones against Minnesota, right? You think about the great defensive ends out there, and now, well, it's always been a thing, but a lot of great defensive coordinators are going to switch up their guy, um, you know, and use them multiple ways, like they do with Bosa, switching him both sides. Yeah, he did play that in college, but I don't know if that's the answer right at this time. I mean, hey, look, if things get worse, I couldn't blame them if they did make that move. I think it probably would be a lot better than Jalen Moore, unless Jalen Moore has really stepped up to be something that we're not expecting, but I doubt it. But either way, they've got to really solidify that position next year. I thought it would have been something they would have done in the offseason, but I guess getting McKivitz back for that 1-year deal didn't hurt them either because it is a 1-year deal. But again, in the past 4 games, Purdy's been sacked, 10 times now? They only gave up, I believe, 1 last week. So it has been mitigated the last 2 weeks, but it's got to continue. Now, I'm expecting against Arizona, that defense is going to come for his ass today. I mean, you want to say what you want about that team. Look, Arizona, I don't think is as bad as people think. Kyler Murray looks like the old Kyler Murray. He's lacking legit targets other than his tight end and other than Michael Wilson, who's stepping up to be pretty good. And the rookie's played great the last 2 weeks. I'm surprised that they didn't utilize him a lot more because he's looking like a guy who can just come into the league and step right up and be legit. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be up. It'd be great to see him be as great as his father, but I think he's a little different than his father. Also, Arizona can run that ball, man. Connor is one tough dude to run through the tackles. So this isn't a team that you can just kind of wave your hand away at. I think that they're in a somewhat rebuilding era as well. Gannon's got them playing good, but that defense isn't too bad. They've got that Zach Gardeck who's playing really good. Budda Baker's always been a really good player. Zach Allen's a very solid defensive tackle. So I don't expect this to be an easy game whatsoever. Do I worry about this one? The one element I'm a little concerned about is going to be the ability to get after Kyler Murray and kind of mitigate him with his legs because we haven't had a lot of luck with that so far this season. Also, too, I need to see a lot more out of Leonard Floyd. I thought we were going to see packages where he was going to be all over the place, lining up as defensive end, lining up as a linebacker, switching sides. I haven't seen a lot of that so far. But I'm hoping also today that the one good thing about this matchup is that I want to see Shavarius Ward really look his best because we haven't seen it yet. He's been banged up, and of course, against the Rams, it was an absolute shit show, I thought, because Tutu Atwell was killing them, right? And the penalty for Ward, I where he left off last year was a very high note. I mean, again, I don't really put a lot of stock in this, but if you go by a lot of the experts, the way that they've lined up their top cornerbacks going after last season, he was in the top 5 corners. This year, it's been dropped down. Now, make of that as you will based on how many games they've seen, judgment, what have you. But the first 4 games, he has not looked his best. In fact, I think Diamador Lenore has looked like the legit number 1 corner. He's got a real tenacious streak about him. He plays really hard. He's good tackling. I like the way he gets inside a receiver despite his size. Needs to go in Campbell. Wide or Y9 needs to go in Campbell. Bell Conley in the corner. Isaac needs to be benched at wide receiver. Marshall needs to play instead of Taylor. Kelly, I kind of agree with you there. Devondre Campbell, look, I don't think he's a bad linebacker. I was really excited about getting him, but of course we've seen the limited ability he does have to cover wide receivers, which is really scary. I mean, if you were watching that game last week, you saw the play Fred Warner made. Fred Warner is just an animal, top linebacker in football. I don't care what anyone says, man. That guy can do it all. Now, if we could get someone to replicate that to 50%, that'd be great. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Campbell's a really good uh, open field tackler, which I think is great to have for a team. But as a number one, I don't know about that, man. Ronnie Bell, like I said last week, Ronnie Bell shouldn't even be on the team at this point. I didn't like what I saw from him in preseason. I didn't like what I saw from him, obviously, 2 weeks ago. There's no excuse to drop. Look, drop passes are going to happen, but not like that. Not when you're naked, bro. That's just. There was nobody on him. Conley, I like, man. I think Conley's a good, solid veteran. I like what he did, obviously, in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl last year. I think he's good for the young wide receivers. I think, in his day, he was a speedster. Um, you know, unless they bring Cowan. Unless they bring him above a little more. I don't see that happening though. Yeah, Isaac Yadam, I'm not happy with either, man. I didn't like what I saw from him 2 weeks ago. I know it was only one play, but still, it's plays like that where we get to kind of make judgment about players on the roster, right? D Winters, I loved what I saw from him in preseason. I just think he needs to stay healthy, and we need to see a lot more of him. We need big physical speed like Marshall, who was on the practice squad. They also have Tariq Owens to the practice squad. I don't think we're going to see a lot of him, but at this point, I couldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some of these guys because I think that what we've seen so far is obviously we have three top wide receivers now. I know a lot of people are down on Ayuk, but I'm not at all. I kind of sort of expected a little bit of a drop with everything that's gone on. I think he'll be just fine because I think he starts like this, but he does come up big in the clutch and as long as and somewhere down the season. What I am concerned about a little bit too is the second tight end. That's why Rostowelli was so valuable. I don't know about Sauber. I don't know. I'd like to see more of this guy Tongs, whatever how you pronounce his name, because that's a very important position. And if Kittle is not good to go, I know he's questionable today, but he did practice on Friday. I'd like to have a legit backup tight end. That's just me. Yeah, Owens' development. Yeah, it would be great to see Owens' son develop. I mean, I'm sure he's a project. I'm sure he hopefully has a big chunk of his father's skills. I mean, those are really big shoes to fill. But again, I think that it would be something to slowly bring along. I'm not really too concerned about the wide receiver position, although I am concerned about Ronnie Bell. I don't want to see him. I don't want to. I don't want to see him in the offense too much. Yeah, to be honest, Debo is a gadget wide receiver, and he is getting older. I think he's about 27, 28, and I understand what you mean by gadget wide receiver. But again, I think that the way they utilize him, and you saw him last week still able to stretch the field on that big play from Purdy, makes him just so valuable. Plus, I think his value is more in how hard he runs and hits the hole and his blocking skills for his size because he has put on a good amount of muscle this year. So I think he's a guy that limiting injury if possible could last till he's 35. But you're right, you can never have too many wide receivers. You can never have too many tight ends in this league. We know already next man up for the job, and that's how I feel about tight end. I think again Kittle's the best tight end in football. The way he plays is probably why injuries happen because he plays a lot harder than Kelsey does, making him the total package as a tight end. So we need a legit backup tight ends. But I want to see more out of Garendo. I want to see them utilize him more. And look, as much as I love Shanahan, I'm objective about things. I don't know why we still don't throw the ball to Juice enough. Dude, if that was my friggin' offense, I go back to when he was on Baltimore. I loved him more because they used him as like a wide receiver out of the backfield. He's so built for that. So built for that, especially off of play actions or delayed block, come out 5 yard, little swing. I don't know why we don't utilize him more like that. It would just it would add a different element to the offense, and it would just take a lot of stress off of other people. But hey, I guess they know better than I do, right? But look, we got not just this game, but a short week coming up against Seattle, too, on Thursday evening. I agree with you. Again, why don't we use him as a tight end? I'm 100% on board with you, Cali 49ers. I don't know why. That's where the Shanahan, who's extremely conservative, I think, when you're extremely conservative in the way you do things, you're here. Like this is here. This is what you know. And the flexibility to flex out of the things doesn't really happen. I don't know why he doesn't do that. I mean, it's been if you've been watching my shit long enough, I sound like a broken record because I've been saying that and posting that for so long. So I don't know why it doesn't happen. I really don't. He's stuck in the 90s. I don't know if he's stuck in the 90s. I think that he obviously is able to utilize a lot of what he learned from his father, who was possibly one of the best offensive minds in sports and a great head coach. I think because the game has changed so much, or the agenda being it now a passing game, it makes him look a certain way. But I don't think he's stuck in the 90s. But I do agree with you that sometimes it's rather rigid, and he doesn't go outside that, and I don't know why. That's the one question I would have for him. It really would be. It'd be the one thing. Why don't you throw the ball more to Jusek? 4 catches, 5 catches a game. And also, too, to be fair, look, the agenda has been we don't like fullbacks no more. Fullback is a thing of the past, which is so friggin' stupid to me. A, because it's one of my favorite positions. B, because being a 49er fan, we've had some of the top fullbacks in the NFL. Obviously, Woody Ratman, right? William Barnum Floyd, 2 Super Bowl winning fullbacks. And, Mark Edwards was a solid fullback, too. Around the league, it seems that it's coming back a little bit. But I remember at a time when you had fullbacks that were so valuable, man. It was just part of the dinner table, man. It was the utensils with the plate. And now it's coming back, but I don't know why. There is so much more to a fullback than just blocking. Now, there are some that were just straight up lumps that used to just plug, which is fine. But you also had the ones that could run the ball, catch the ball, do so many things out of the backfield, hence a Ratman, hence a William Barnum Floyd before that tenacious knee injury, and so many others, man. I mean, I think of all the great fullbacks throughout history, and so many of them were so valuable. So, yeah, I agree. I'd love to see him be more active. You need a fullback, Ratman. Mark Logan, good call, dude. I used to love Mark Logan, man. I remember... Oh, shit. Was it 1990 against the Cleveland Browns or 91? We lost on Monday Night Football to the Cleveland Browns. Mark Logan had himself a game for us. What an underrated fullback. I know he started with the Dolphins, but yeah, he's another guy, man, that sort of went under the radar. Loved him, man. Loved Mark Logan. Yeah, I can't understand it, man. But I like I said, I know he's so important blocking. I know he's like a 7 offensive lineman if you consider Kittle. But look, it is what it is at this point. Main thing is we need to get a divisional victory again today, especially capitalize on Seattle's loss on Thursday. One thing, if you didn't watch the Seattle Lions game, couple things I saw from that game, me just being objective, and if you would disagree with me, tell me. A, the Lions defense sucks. I love Aaron Glenn. He was a great cornerback, but that defense sucks. They cannot hold leads, and they give up chunks of friggin' yards, man. That's what they do. They are not a good shutdown defense, despite how good Aiden Hutchinson is, despite how good Alex Anzalone is. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of Clay Matthews. Him and Van Ginkel, I think, were separated at birth, and they kind of remind me. I mean, he's got such nice hair. He reminds me, and I'm not dissing him. I like Alex Anzalone, but he reminds me of the chickie from the Rapunzel movie, whatever you call that, the Disney one. But yeah, like I don't get with them. Like they give up chunks of yards, man. I know they were going up against DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. That Ken Walker runs hard, dude. You go back and watch some of the highlights from Thursday night's game, man. Ken Walker III runs fucking hard. I was really impressed with that. Plus, I was impressed with Geno Smith, another guy a lot of people don't talk about. That's not a bad Seattle team at all, man. So it's a short week, and we have them coming up. I also saw that Seattle's got holes as well on defense. Seattle obviously cannot. I mean, they were giving up chunks of yards. I think Goff was perfect in that game, so that's a plus for us. They're 3-1. I hope they get another. Well, yeah, that was their week game, this past one. So we need to go 3-2 right under them. The Rams are starting to shit the bed as we knew they would, and with a win, another division win over today with the Cardinals would be huge. Because again, Cardinals aren't terrible, but the Cardinals aren't great. They're sort of in that middle place where they could ruin your weekend, or you know, you can dominate them for sure. So we're in a good place, but a short week is going to be interesting, man. We're going up against two divisional rivals, and then of course it's on against the Cowboys and the Chiefs. So things are just getting interesting, as we say, but also at the same time, I think we're starting to gel a little bit. Just looking at some of the stats from last game, obviously, Purdy played really well. Not his most best completing wise, but 15 to 27 for 288, a touchdown and a pick. He was only sacked once. Yeah, I hope Kyle turns it up now too, bro. I really do. I think this is where we start to see it. That's been our MO. Yeah, Purdy, again, 59. Well, the rating was 89.7. But again, if that's his worst game, okay, fine. Mason, 123 on 24 carries, averaging 5.1 yards per carry and a touchdown. Kid just has really good ability to get outside. Good, solid athlete, man. I like the way he kind of has like that. It's hard. He's kind of got like a very elastic way that he kind of jukes. I really like that he's not straight up head on in. He's kind of got that little ability. I think he's only getting better. On the receiving side of the ball, Juwan Jennings continuing his reign. 3 catches, 88 yards, had himself a huge catch. Debo had himself 3 catches, 58 yards. And Brandon Ayuk, 2 catches, 48 yards. So they were able to stretch the field big time. And, of course, the great George Kittle with 4 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Man, go back and look at that catch a couple thousand times. He needs to rotate backs. Very true. Very good point. Good point. Yeah, it seems to me he's not rotating the backs as much as he has, obviously, because you don't have McCaffrey. But let Guriendo get in there and play, man. I mean, this is what you drafted the guy for. He had such a big MO coming out of college. I want to see more of him. I don't know why we're not seeing him. I think Shanahan gets too cemented into things and doesn't want to get out. A lot of great coaches have done that throughout sports. Pat Riley never played rookies. Phil Jackson never played rookies. If you look at the New York Knicks, they don't play a lot of rookies either. So Coach Tibbs doesn't do that. That doesn't always work though. I'd like to see more. Even Andy Reid in Kansas City doesn't always play rookies. Now he's going to have to with the injuries to Rashee Rice because Xavier Worthy is going to have to fill in there. Why draft a player then bench them? I agree with you, especially when they're part of a rotation. If it was a quarterback that you're starting off from scratch or somebody else, then I can understand you want them to learn from a veteran or someone above them. But in this case, we're a great running offense, hence be Shanahan's history. Let Guriendo play more. The defense, like I said, looked great. Jair Brown's played very good this year. He led the way with 8 tackles. Fred Warner doing everything possible. 7 tackles, 1 interception for 6. Devondre Campbell had himself not a bad game, although a lot of the emphasis wasn't on him covering receiver-wise. He had 7 tackles. Javarius Ward didn't have a bad game. I mean, to be fair, the defensive backfield wasn't playing against a top wide receiver corps, so that means a lot. So we need to see Javarius Ward at his best this upcoming game. Bosa getting held again, had himself a sack. He looked unstoppable last week. Malik Mustafa, the rookie, didn't look bad. Good, strong guy. Kind of reminds me of the throwback safeties, which we really need more of. Leonard Floyd, like I said, I'd like to see more out of, man. They gotta put in more packages for him. Number 91 is standing out. Yeah, that's true. This kid Okianu had a really nice game last week. He had a strip. He had a sack before that. Even Evan Anderson, I thought, played well. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles isn't playing today, I know. Neither is Yetur Gross-Matos. It's a knee injury. I think he was put on IR, which is concerning because it's another guy to the IR, and we had big expectations from him coming from the free agent pool. Theodore has been a lockdown. He's great. This Tate Bethune, I was really big on coming into the season. I thought he had a phenomenal preseason. They're saying that he has a really upside, which is really good. Maybe we can see him sort of come along and replace Campbell, or just add to that help for Fred Warner. Who knows? But nonetheless, 30-13 was the victory over the Patriots, and I'm not even going to bother reading the Patriots stats because there wasn't much to read from. The one thing I always like to go over is the team stats, because, like I always say, when we hold teams under 100 yards, when we hold them from running the ball, we really win games. That's just my opinion. Third down efficiency, we were 7 of 13. That was better. That was a disaster the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we had the more yards, we had the more plays. Penalties, 6 for 43. I'm someone who likes less penalties the better, as does everybody. But it's been better than it was. And, of course, possession time, 31 minutes to their 28. But running the ball, obviously, we outdid them 148-73. I think that most of the time we outrush a team, we win. Okay? So that goes against the agenda being that everything's a pass. Bullshit. This is a run-first offense, and today I hope they just pound the ball against Arizona all the way down the field with that run and set up that pass as much as they can. Another thing I will say about the running game has been the emergence of the running ability of Brock Purdy, which is another reason to love him, which a lot of the experts are starting to catch up on, which we saw last year for those of us who watch him. So just another reason to love this guy. And, of course, they won't talk about him in the upper echelon of quarterbacks because that's just what we do. God forbid a 7th-round last pick should be this good. But nonetheless, it was a victory, and we need another one today. Hopefully it's a solid one. I hope it's like a 27-17 type thing. I hope it's one of those things where we get big chunks of yards. We get to see more of Garendo, and don't lose anybody else to injury. So special teams has to be fixed. Yeah, man, that's one thing I agree with you with. It was a disaster. Especially against the Rams, it didn't look too good against the Vikings either, to be honest. And that is something that can really come back to bite you in the ass as the season stretches on. So yeah, man, I agree with you on that. Special teams really has to improve. I'm still a little shaky when it comes to Mr. Moody too, to be honest with you. But anyway, look, a victory is a victory. We'll get another one today. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions or, just shoot the shit about the team, always hit me up. I'm always down to do it. I mean, this team is just a huge part of my life, man. I don't know how that sounds, but that's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. I got them on my mind, reading the stats constantly, and I'm sure everybody's the same way. So let's get another victory today, man. Here's to hoping that Kyle Juszczyk gets used more as a wide receiver out of the backfield. All right, Niner Nuts out. Peace, everybody.